But here's something else I think, that it's unhealthy at this point for you and I to do this Idaho thing. And that's why I'm winding my Idaho down. And that's why I'm getting a little more aggressive, because, I can't get fired from this job, even though it's the lowest paying job I've ever had. But I just need to settle some things, and that's what we're doing. Speaking of, thanks for the donations, okay? Donations, or whatever I said. The donations, buy me a coffee. Janet, wherever you are, thank you. Person who calls himself someone, well, you know who you are, and you're not someone to me. Thank you for the buy me a coffee. Missy Prissy, you made the biggest donation, darling. Thank you so much. That was needed. And also, Jennifer, you're right up there with Missy Prissy on this, so thanks to everybody. Now that we're 3 minutes in, let's get to this before we end up getting the hell out forever. So I went over some of the 4chan. I've never even read through the 4chan. I've heard some of it. There's one thing that clues me in, that this was not written by college dudes, and it was not even written by, maybe somebody's thinking, it could be Payne just playing around, or some other dickhead from Moscow, Idaho PD. No. This comes from an outsider. And weren't the feds on the scene either that night or the next couple days? And this encompasses by the time the 4chan would have been posted. Now, I'm not saying that one of the feds posted this to 4chan. I think it was just some little shithead alpha male trying to be one of the bros, and he's throwing around words like titties, which is a little disrespectful to dead girls. But that's something the feds would do. They see this all the time, man. Well, let me tell you something, you little tit. It's obvious you hate women, so good luck. But anyway, as alpha as this guy thinks he is, I think it's an in-house male. But what clues me in, again, is that he mentions Xana is on the bed with her white boyfriend. Now, only an outsider is going to say white boyfriend, because, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't Moscow, Idaho predominantly Caucasian? Even if it's a college kid, even if it's Payne or someone from Moscow, Idaho PD, why would they say white boyfriend when all these victims appear white? Not genetically, everybody's something, but I think the victims all appear to be more or less white. So why does this person make that a point? Because I think these feds obviously came up to the sleepy little town of Moscow, Idaho, not expecting a quadruple murder. But what they were expecting was to find two people who have been on the FBI radar long before the IDAHO4 tragedy, and those would be Emma and Demetrius. Yeah, did they walk in expecting to find, obviously, white Emma and black Demetrius? No, it's some other chick and her white boyfriend. Wrap that up for you, you're welcome. And then something else. This is kind of painful to say, but the Linda Lane audio. I mean, I've never heard the full audio, but I've heard enough to where I heard a female screaming. But think about it. If this is in real time, there's a conversation for about 3 minutes. The conversation escalates into all hell breaking loose. And I think that's Xana's voice, because now I'm comparing it to just, happier times, the videos of all the kids partying and just being normal college kids. But Xana's voice is on that shouting, and to me it sounds much like the voice, as garbled as it is, on the Linda Lane audio. So this is someone they knew, and as I said, it escalated. So I think Steve G was correct way back when he said, why did they have to go upstairs? Because for some reason Steve knew Xana was the target. Xana was the target, Ethan was collateral damage, as were Kaylee and Maddie. Of course, Dylan, well, we already got enough bodies piled up here, we don't need another. And when she peeks out her bedroom door, this guy is intimidating enough, because he's probably murdered several people before this. The way he looks at Dylan, he knows this cute little college girl ain't gonna say shit. And speaking of, let's go to the G's on Nancy G. Why is Nancy Grace featuring the G's when they have nothing new to say? Well, here's what I'll say is, I think about the G's and the families and the victims 30 times a day. And I think Steve's narrative is bullshit. So Steve being the badass alpha male this whole time, right? I mean, he's he's mad at the prosecution. He's going to kill Kober in prison. He's going to get out. We're going to get a lawyer. And he's such a badass, except when he gets that phone call that his daughter may be in harm's way. Instead of being Mr. Badass alpha male and jumping on down to Moscow, Idaho, which is maybe 90 minutes away. I could be wrong. They're going to wait. They're going to just sit in the house like little lambs. Yeah, well, Steve probably got that first phone call, and I'm assuming he probably ran upstairs and got into the gun cabinet and starts taking aim. Because with that phone call, I think by then they're just going to barricade themselves in the house and wait for someone to kick in the front door, whether it be the police or the perps. Yeah. What do you think about that? Why? I mean, obviously Maddie and Kaylee's friends, they don't know what's going on. They're going to call the parents. So are the parents of Kaylee not picking the phone up? Or just, hello, no, yeah, okay, no, it's like a switchboard. But Steve can't send one of the kids down to Moscow. Really? Why isn't Steve putting himself at the scene? Why isn't, what's her face? I can't even pronounce her name. Why isn't she at the scene? Interesting. So they're going to wait. Like I said, badass Steve, the cops tell him, no, just shut up and sit tight. We'll let you know. And he follows direction. That's very uncharacteristic, isn't it? Unless you have something to lose. So maybe he sat around the house, watching football, and maybe he's rearranging some finances, some physical and some resources. Maybe the feds are there. Maybe they're looking at Kaylee's phone. Maybe they're going to connect something. I'm just connecting this in my head. I'm not connecting this to Steve G. It's all speculation. Yeah, speculation. Anyway, thanks again for watching.